And we are live from home at my apartment in New York City. This is a piece called Versailles that I spent the last couple days writing. I breached the gates of Versailles on a bicycle with a tour company logo on the center bar. Once we got past the joggers and women pushing strollers, our guide led the group down a shaded country lane with fields on either side while telling us stories from history, battles, kings. But I kept looking out at the spectrum of green, breathing deeply the fresh and sun-baked air. And it didn't feel like France. I could have been anywhere. Some lush, unspoiled planet, except now and then in the distance, a lucky fellow astronaut on another bike tour, which was how I realized the cannabis candy I'd eaten earlier had taken root and started to bloom. Just then, another woman on my tour caught her bicycle in front of mine, causing me to brake hard and nearly fall. My mother, 70 years old in padded bike shorts. She pedaled off ahead of me, unaware the guide was stopping the tour to tell us something about one of the fields. I could tell my mom was having a ball. The weed candy, after all, had been hers. An hour later, the group stopped for lunch by a lake. Something flapped near my face, a wasp. I stayed very still and it passed. There had been wasps everywhere on this trip to France, city and country. Bakeries left dishes of honey on the counter to lure the insects from pastry, which meant every bakery had a dish of wasps. While eating her sandwich by the lake, the guide told us about how, long ago, a group of women from Paris said enough is enough and marched on Versailles to force the royal family back to the city, trudging in muddy hem dresses for days. The finish line, a fleet of hostile cannons. Nothing to do on the walk but imagine your own unsurvivable future. I wondered, could I do that? Yes, the guide said, looking right at me. I'd asked my question out loud. And it was a genius plan. They made the royal family return with them to Paris. Almost no women died. They knew the men would not fire upon them. They knew, I thought. Tea leaves, maybe, or prophetic dreams. Or they were arrogant and lucky. Did it matter if it worked? But the guide clarified, because to shoot at the women, the men thought, would be like aiming a cannon at a child. A sudden blur in my periphery. The wasp was back, drawn close by the sweat at my neck. I thought of the women who'd walked to Versailles, trying to channel their bravery. But those women knew the men wouldn't shoot on them. This wasp could totally sting. This had happened before. Another time I'd been afraid, with my mother, and stoned. Pot brownies on the subway from Herald Square to Coney Island, our destination the freak show at the museum. I thought the brownies were weak. Classic story. It wasn't until the lights came on for the show that the high reared up, sudden as an ice bath, and way too much to handle. We were in the middle of filled bleachers, no way to slip from the room without interrupting the show. I felt like if I couldn't figure this out, I deserved to sit in it alone. So in that room filled with people right next to my mother, I sat alone. Eyes closed to sword swallowing, fire being eaten, bodies pretzel twisted, even as people around me gasped. But finally I did feel okay. As the show ended, I opened my eyes. That was my version of bravery, surviving a thing I'd done to myself. In Versailles, still arrayed by the lake for lunch, I nestled my cup of wine in the grass, ceding it to the wasp, which flew over and perched on the rim. My mom spoke up behind me, on the phone with my dad. "It's the most amazing thing ever," she said. I assumed she meant being in France for the first time in 40 years, and with me. That wasn't what she meant. These women, a long time ago, were so pissed off, they walked all the way from Paris to Versailles to the palace, demanding the royal family get the hell out. And the men didn't think anything of it, just some women. Who cares? Idiots. People laughing at them just made it better because those women got their king. Oh, they got their king. Now that's a way to look at it. The boldest bad bitch thing in the world is to live up to your own expectations. I noticed my breathing was normal. My panic, like the wasp, was gone. Thanks. Be safe out there.